Here we go. How you doing, Facebook? How you doing, Instagram or YouTube? I'm not sure where you are finding this, but I'm glad you're taking a few moments to watch this video. We're in part 2 of a 9-part series where I took a few moments and asked some of my clients, what did you do? What was the key distinction? What was the biggest thing that made the biggest difference? Or I said, what was the one thing that made the biggest difference in going from anything under $1 million in your business to $1 million in revenue? And they all shared with me. I got a bunch of text messages. I'm going to share one today with you. And then I asked a few of them, what was the biggest difference that helped you get from 1 million to 10 million? A few of them shared with me, and I asked one of them, what was the biggest difference that helped you cross the $100 million a year mark? And I'm going to share that one in a few videos forward from here. But for today, we're going to focus on what it took for one of my clients to go from $1 million in revenue to $1 million in net profit. And this is really important. So first off, before we dive in, my name is Jarek Robbins. I have a company called High Performance Ventures. We focus on helping business owners grow their businesses. And we focus on revenue first. Then we focus on profit. And we really max this out. I would love to know, for those of you who are tuning in live right now, in the comment section, number one, where are you tuning in from? Number two, what are 2 things you're excited about for 2021? I realized there was a lot going on in 2020, but what are you excited about for 2021? If you would, drop it over in the comment section. Now, as we dive in here, I'd also love to know, what business are you in? And how's business right now? And if I were to ask you, what are you excited about for 2021? And would it be which one of these 2 things? Now, most everybody goes, can I have both? Yeah, you can have both, but there's an order to put them in that makes a really, really big difference. From London, nice to see you. And so the question is, which is more important to you for 2021? When you think about your business, let me throw this up on the screen here. When you think about your business, which is most important to you? And we're going to give you an option here. Option number 1, let me grab a better pen. Option number 1, I want to grow my business and I want to get really big. Meaning, I want to, grow my team. I want to grow my reach. I want to grow. I mean, my goodness, if I keep going, I want to grow. What else would you want to grow? I want to grow my revenue. I want to grow, if you're spending more on ads, you're probably reaching more people. Is the goal to get rich, to get big? Meaning we're getting really big. We're growing our team. We're growing our reach. We're growing our revenue. We're growing our ad spend. We're growing. And for a lot of businesses, when I sit down and first talk with them, this is the stuff I hear. Or number 2, is it to get rich? Now, before I go into getting rich, let me share with you my philosophy, and this is really important. People get a little turned off when we talk about getting rich sometimes. So if you imagined there was 2 circles perfectly overlapping each other, if we were to think of, a Wall Street consulting firm, the goal is to get really rich. And so these people tend to be incredibly smart, and they're constantly hunting for ways to make more money, make more profit, squeeze more juice out of it. Now, if we were to think of the nonprofit world, which is where I started off in business, these people have huge hearts. They're constantly looking for ways to make more impact, to make a bigger difference, to help more people. One of my friends one time, he started off at Bain Consulting, so he was over in this group. And then he with $500 or $25, he started a nonprofit that's built over 500 schools in the last 7 years. So he got over here. And he says when you combine these two, he calls this a for-purpose enterprise. Meaning we're focused that, number one, we're going to serve our clients so well that they're willing to pay us a ton of money and are thrilled to do it. We're then going to take that money and reinvest it in the causes and situations that we really believe in. And I was like, my goodness, that's one of the coolest little descriptions I've ever seen. I said, if I'm going to be in business, that's the kind of business I am going to be in. So when I get into this discussion over here about getting rich and making a ton of money, the purpose for making all that money is to be able to go reinvest it into situations and things that really matter in the world, things that are important to us. So with that in mind, we have option one, which is getting really big. I'm going to resize this real quick. So we have option one, which is getting really big, growing our team, growing our reach, growing our revenue, growing our ads, getting really big. We have option two, which is figuring out how to get extremely rich. Now, when I say rich, this one over here might have a lean team. It's going to, it'll grow its reach. But when it talks about growing revenue or growing profit, the goal here is to grow to profit more than the revenue, which is how do we keep maximizing what we're doing. And growing ads, it'll use ads really, really effectively. And so if we were to look at the numbers that go with this, let me duplicate this page real quick. If we were to look at the numbers that go with this page here, here's the plan. If I were to stop there and say, which one is more important to you for 2021? Jenna says, excited to have paid off my business debt. Unbelievable. Great work. Grateful my kids are getting along so well. That is awesome, Jenna. Great work. So which one's more important to you, getting big or getting rich? Now, when I first started in business, what was most important to me was getting big. I wanted to reach 1 million people. I wanted to transform millions of lives. I wanted to get big, 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 big. And so everything I was focused on was investing the money, investing the time, investing the effort to get big. And we've done a pretty good job at that. We have active clients learning from us right now in 115 countries around the world. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. And so we worked on expanding, getting to as many places as we can to reach the people who need us most at the moment they need it with the message they need. What I wasn't really good at for the first probably 6 years of business was the numbers. I wasn't good at the numbers of business. Now, let me ask you real quick. How often do you review your numbers? Do you review them quarterly? Do you review your numbers weekly, daily? Do you review your numbers once a year? I'm going to tell you some research that I think is really interesting. There was a research study done. They asked thousands of small business owners, how often do you review your numbers, your P&L, your balance sheet? How often do you review them and analyze them, really look in depth at them? And, I'm going to wait real quick. How often, for those of you watching, do you think they reviewed their numbers? And how often do you review your numbers right now before I tell you what the research shows? Hopefully you review them pretty often. Let me tell you why. Imagine flying a plane. And let me draw this so you could see it. Imagine if we're going to draw a plane, and let me clear some of this out. Let's say we're on that plane, and here's our plane, little tail. We're flying away. We take off, and we're headed from Tokyo to LAX, Los Angeles. How often, oh, hold on, I don't think you can see me. There we go. How often do you want to check in on where you're at? Just think about that for a second. How often do you want to check in on where you're at on this course right here? Do you want to wait till you're about 6 hours into the journey and go, hey, where are we? We're supposed to be on the dotted line, but let's say we took off and accidentally went this way for 6 hours. Would that be a fun experience to find out you're halfway through all the fuel you have on the plane and you're literally much further away from the destination than you imagine? No, that wouldn't be a fun experience at all. I mean, what if you took off and you went the right direction, you just headed towards Mexico instead of LA? And again, to find out right here that you're significantly too far for the amount of fuel you have left, that would be a really, really bad experience. But for many of us in our business, this is what we do. We take off at the beginning of the month. Let's say this is 30 days. And some of us, we check our numbers right here and hope that we landed up exactly where we thought we were supposed to over the 30 days. Now, I'm just telling you, if you were flying a plane and you were here and you didn't check your numbers until here, my goodness, we're really, really hoping to get lucky every month. Because if you land up here and out of gas, or here and out of gas, or here and out of gas, my goodness, we're in a lot of trouble, and there's nothing we can do about it at this point. We're way too far off track. Versus, watch this. What if we put a rhythm together that says, I'm going to check in right here. I'm going to check in right here. I'm going to check in right here. I'm going to check in right here, and then do a little recap at the end. Here's what's fascinating. The more often you check in, the more times you have to correct the course. Because if you got off track here and you did something to get it back here, and then got off track here but did something to get here, you can keep course correcting as long as you check in and know where you are. If you don't check in and you don't know where you are, oh my gosh, there's a chance you're going to run out of fuel one time and not even know it until it's the end of the month and you went, whoops. How many of you have ever done that? You had way more month left than money. Meaning you got to here on days, but your money stopped right here and you didn't know it until you got here. I've done that a couple times. It's not a good experience. So what the research shows is, that 50% of business owners only check their P&L one time a year. When I heard that, I almost choked. 50% of business owners only check their P&L one time a year. And that one time a year specifically is when they're getting ready to do their taxes. I almost choked when I heard that. One time a year? Oh my goodness. That is really, really scary to me. And so the first principle that I wanted to share in today's little training is, we need you to get into the rhythm of watching your financial numbers more often. One of my favorite quotes from a gentleman who's done very well in business and investing. Accounting is the language of business, by Mr. Warren Buffett. Accounting is the language of business. Now, your P&L and your balance sheet is the scoreboard. Imagine trying to play a sport and not knowing how to read the scoreboard. How do you know if you're winning the game or losing the game? How do you know how far ahead or behind you are? One of my business mentors hammered me on this. He said, if you can't read the scoreboard, you can't win the game. And like Mr. Warren Buffett says, accounting is the language of business. If you can't speak the language, you can't win the game. This was so important. And so if we go back here, let's look at the difference between getting big and getting rich. And then I'm going to read you the exact text my client sent me that they said was the one thing that made the biggest difference in going from $1 million in revenue to $1 million in profit. I'm going to share exactly what they said. It's very simple, but my goodness, it makes a lot of sense. So getting big, imagine you get big. You go out there and you find a way to help 1 million people. And as you're helping 1 million people, you generate, let's say it's $100 a person. So you generate $100 million. Huge revenue. Let's say it costs, the expenses that come with this. You need a team of, let's say, 200 people to pull this off. And it costs, with all the ad spend and all the revenue and all the marketing and everything you do, let's say it cost $90 million to run this business. That means you're left with $10 million at the end of the year. Now, most of us will go, oh my gosh, that's amazing. $100 million in revenue, 200 people who have jobs, helping 1 million clients. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. How cool. And we spent $90 million, but my God, we got to keep $10 million. That's huge. How many of you would want this business? How many of you would want this business? This is a big question. This is a really important question. Jane, nice to see you. How many of you would want this business? Other example, we have another business here. Let's say this business still helps the same amount of people. Makes just as big as a difference. Just does it in a different way. Now this business, instead of producing 100 million, this one only produces $20 million a year. And we go, ooh, that's cool, 20 million bucks. We go, well, wait a second. This one only takes, 7 people to run it and manage it. And this one's expenses, 10 million bucks a year to run this whole thing. Left over, $10 million net. Big question. Which business would you want? Which business would you want? When I first saw this, there was no doubt in my mind. The business I wanted was right here. I was like, oh my goodness, I am taking number one. 1 million people helped, $100 million in revenue, 200 people have jobs, and my goodness, 90 million in expenses, but I get to net $10 million. This is unbelievable. That is so cool. Probably have a building with our name on it. I mean, we probably have company jets. Oh man, this is going to be great. And my business mentor, Jenna Smart Pick, my business mentor whacked me over the head. Proverbially, he didn't hit me, but he whacked me. He goes, if you want anything except for option number 2, you don't know enough about business. And I said, what in the world is he talking about? He said, if you realize the amount of headache, the amount of pain in the butt, the amount of friction that goes into business number 1, and if you can eliminate, my goodness, you're eliminating $80 million of expenses. And it only takes 7 people, and it's 193 less people you need to actually move this ship. And you get the same amount of profit. My goodness. He said, you'd be extremely silly, anyone choosing business 1. He goes, there's plenty of people who do it. You'd just be silly. He said, if the purpose is right here, if the purpose of business is to, deliver such an amazing experience for your clients, number 1, that they're willing to pay us a ridiculous amount of money to do it, number 2, and they're thrilled to do that, and we can take that money and reinvest it back into number 1, which is causes that really matter. If we're running a for-purpose enterprise, our goal is number 2. How do we run as lean as possible, generate as much profit as possible, and make the biggest impact as possible? If we do that right, my goodness, it makes a huge difference. That means we got to be really smart in what we're doing. And we'll work hard at it too, but we got to be smart. So when I asked my client, let me see if I could put this up on the screen. I asked my client to get to $1 million in profit. Here's the exact text. To get to $1 million in profit, what was, you say, the one thing that made the biggest impact or difference on your journey to get that result? They said, I got to think about that one. I think it was when my marketing got strong that I was able to get all the clients that paid a lot and reduce the low-paying clients I had in the house. I went, ooh, that's important. If you want to increase the profitability of your business, can you identify who your best clients are? Meaning for every dollar invested, they get a 100x return, or they get a 10x return, or a 5x return for every dollar of money they put into your business. For every hour invested with you, they get, multiple hours return. Can you figure out the best clients who get the best ROI from working with you? And can you get more of those? Can you get more of your best clients? Can you get more of the highest paying clients you have? Because what happens is if you go get more of them, number 1, they get unbelievable results in working with you. Number 2, they're willing to invest significantly more than the average client or average person is to work with you because they get such a big ROI. Number 3, that leaves you with a mountain of profit at the end of every year if you do this right. So today's lesson, generating $1 million in revenue, going up to $1 million in profit. Lesson number 1, if you can't read the scoreboard, you can't win the game. The language of business is accounting, says Mr. Warren Buffett. Number 2, are you trying to get big or are you trying to get rich? In our for-purpose model of business, the head of a banker, the heart of a nonprofit, the for-purpose model, we want you to have mountains of profit at the end of every year so you can reinvest that profit into causes and people and situations that matter in the world. Now, in order to do that, we need you to focus on option number 2, which is getting rich, getting very, very profitable in how you run your business. And how one of my clients said that they went from $1 million in revenue to $1 million in profit was get the marketing so strong and targeted that they could get more of their best clients, the clients who get the biggest and best ROI from working with you, so that they're willing to invest the most so you can charge higher prices and you can be left with a mound of profit at the end of each year. Now, if you're watching this video and you'd like some help with this, we have a business accelerator starting January 6th. It's limited to 10 people. We already have 5 people confirmed and already paid for and locked in their spots. We have 5 spots left. Qualifications for that. Ideally, we want you making at least $20,000 a month or more in revenue, and we'll help you grow it from there. But that just means you figured out what works and you're doing pretty good at it. So if you're in that range, what can you do? I'm going to put a link in just a few moments on Facebook right below this video. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put the link in the comments. If you're watching this on the page that I emailed to you, there's a form right below this that you can complete. Just ask a couple questions about your business. It helps us figure out if we can or can't help. And if we can help, we'll send you an email with 3 short videos in it that shows our process, how we work, how if it's a fit, and help you figure that out. So if you would, click the link below as soon as we get it down there, or fill out the form below this, and we'll have a chat and see if we can help you to grow your business over this next year together. So, hope this was useful. Hope you learned something here, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.